Hello. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm really excited to be recording this podcast.
Me too. I always am.
I really am looking forward to our time recording every week and talking about things. It's like we get an hour to discuss something without interruption.
That's true. If our kids stay out of the room while we're
If the kids stay
recording. If you're new here, welcome to the Creative Saints podcast. We're excited you're here and that you found us.
Yeah. And if you are new here, we would really like if you would take a listen, share this with people you think might get something out of it. Maybe go back and listen to some episodes. Maybe do a little follow.
A little comment.
Engage, DM. You know, it's it all really helps in formulating what we actually pick to talk about.
Yeah.
So we're not just having conversations we want to have. We're having conversations that are inspired by conversations we're having with other people, which most weeks we have a conversation and that sparks us to want to discuss something.
Okay. That being said, I have a little bone to pick with all of the people that are coming up to us personally and saying that they listened, but they never comment. So we love you guys.
You've been called out.
You've been called out. You have to comment. No, you don't have to. But, you know,
No, you do
share
have
it
to.
on socials. We had a friend of ours, I know you're listening, and he texts us and said he listens every week. Bro, share the podcast.
Share it with your people.
All right. He'll text us after this comes out and share it. Say I shared the podcast. Today is going to be a little specific, I guess.
Yeah, it is pretty specific.
Yeah. It's not something we've really touched on, maybe like here and there, but
I think we have touched on it in a lot of the different, like, more difficult things and how we deal, but a deep dive into the misconceptions.
yeah.
Is that a good way to put that?
Yeah.
Of working together.
Yeah. This is something that comes up a lot.
People ask us a
conversation.
lot.
A lot. How often are we together, babe? Actually, better question. How often are we apart?
I went to the store this morning.
Yeah. We're together all the time. And we do everything as a team. And it's just the way that we've set our life up. Not necessarily intentionally, but it's the way I think that God just had some things planned for us. And this is the way it's worked out.
It definitely would not work if we didn't tag team.
Right. So that's kind of what this is all about.
Yeah.
I think that people assume a lot about what it must be like for us and anyone that works closely with their spouse, or
Yeah.
if you just work closely with a business partner, somebody
Yeah.
that you're like in cahoots with all the time and making all of your decisions together.
We are specifically a married couple that work
Yeah.
together, but there is that whole like label of my work wife or work husband,
Yeah.
or people who have someone they're in business with,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very deep, intimate relationship anytime. So this is us as husband and wife, but it's really relatable to anybody who is in close proximity working day and night with someone else.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. And I think that, you know, we kind of just want to touch on all of the myths, the misconceptions, all the things that people assume about us. A lot of times when we explain to people what we do and, you know, what we're building and what we love and all of those things, they're like, so you guys do this together? And it just is mind blowing to them. And it's so natural for us because we've been doing it for so long.
Mm-hmm.
That we thought, hey, let's just blow it wide open, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, let's actually talk about all of the things that people assume about it. So,
Yeah, it's really funny. The other day we were sitting and having a conversation with someone, and it was a husband and wife who were together, and they've worked together.
Mhm.
And I said, do you ever not talk about work?
Yeah.
Because a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was a time where you were like, can we have conversations with people that don't revolve around business and
I
work?
was like, I just need friends that have nothing to do with our business, for sure.
But as we've grown
Yeah.
and done this over the last 5 years, it's probably been 5 years since that was the case, but
Yeah.
as we've grown and done this, now we together have conversations with other husbands and wives who do work together or
Mhm.
have worked together. And it's just kind of like, well, we eat, breathe, and sleep together. And this is life. And we have such a passion for it and we love it. And that goes back to building in a healthy schedule and like
Yeah.
knowing your boundaries. Sometimes you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
We talked about that a few weeks
Well, and
ago.
I think back then too, I wasn't as passionate about what we were doing. You were a lot more singularly doing this. And so I didn't want to talk about it all the time because I didn't care about it as much as you did. And so
That
when
was like
we
a
were
year
with,
and a half, 2 years into business,
yeah,
and we
so
didn't know
when we
what we
were
were
with our
doing.
friends, I was like, I'm done. Like, I need to talk about hanging out and
Right.
doing fun stuff and like, so yeah, for sure. I was not interested. But it is funny. Most of our friends now, young married couples and people that we look up to and all of that, most of them are working together in some
Hmm.
capacity, are together all the time,
Yeah.
and we're finding the fun in all of that
Yeah.
now.
A lot of successful people that we see
Mhm.
as mentors or people we look up to, they're husband and wives, and
Mhm.
they've built their business, they've built their millions together.
Yeah.
And there's a firm foundation and something very strong in building something with somebody else.
I agree.
So
All
what are
right.
what are the things that are misconceptions?
Yeah, so we built a list here of maybe some things that came online and then some things that we've experienced people saying to us. And we're just going to go through that list and either agree or disagree, I guess, with whether or not it's true and talk about how we handle some of these situations as
Yeah.
they come along. So, all right, myth number 1. You ready?
Myth number 1.
You must have the same creative taste.
Negative.
Negative.
Well, yes and no.
So I think that at a base level, right? I think that we both are paying attention to culture and what is trending and how
Yeah.
things actually work. So we agree in those areas of like, hey, this is the way to go for
Mhm.
this specific thing. In general, maybe how we would decorate our house or anything like that, it's often not the same. Sometimes
No.
you show me stuff and I'm like, yeah, no, that's gonna have to be some man cave situation because that's not going in my
And
house.
sometimes when you pick out clothes for the girls, I'm
Mhm.
like,
A little house on the prairie for you.
not feeling that. So I think that we do, for the most part, have the here's the breakdown. There is, we have the same end goal desire
Yeah.
and know the process,
Yeah.
but we both have our own opinions,
Mhm.
and we've found a place to bridge that and bring those together.
Mhm.
And what we do now is just incredible because there's a male and a female perspective. There's a this style and this style perspective that are all tied together. So it does level up every
Yeah.
single time.
Absolutely. All right, myth number 2. You're always creatively in sync.
No.
No, and I think I was just thinking about this one. I think part of that is because we're not always working on the same thing.
Yeah.
So I might be a little bit more in depth with a church client,
Right.
and you might be working on somebody that runs a coffee house, and we're in different veins, right? Like my
Yeah.
brain is going deep dive into a certain style, and I think that we always find some syncopation, but
Yeah.
we are not always there, and there are many times where we like hardcore disagree on how something should be,
Mhm.
So
And so we talk about working together all the time. We're not like, we're together and we are like referencing each other, but like day to day, we're not really working on the same projects at the
Mm-mm.
same time.
If we are, we really have to say, hey, we need to sit down together and
Yeah.
handle this right now. And usually if we're working on something together at the same time, it's like maybe a couple hours a day,
Yeah,
and then
it's
we
not
go our
like-
separate ways. Yeah.
So maybe that's a big differentiator. Like, we're
Yeah.
not sitting in the same computer screen
Mm-mm.
all day. We're doing I mean, I go from 3 to 5 projects a day, and
Right.
you go 3 to 5 projects a day, and we're bouncing back and forth,
Mm-hmm.
and then we review them together and we move on. So
Yeah.
there's that, but we are in sync as far as getting it done,
Yeah.
the process we do it.
Yep.
But creatively, I would say
We're usually
halfway through the process, we're in sync.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny because the kind of creative mood you're in, I can usually tell what kind of creative mood you're in
Yeah.
based on what music you play in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I come out to you drinking coffee and you've got hardcore on, I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna touch his creative brain today. He's in a space, he's in a zone. Like, I'm not gonna even touch it. He's got stuff to do. But if you're playing worship, then
There's more freedom there to.
we're probably gonna be talking about some things. That is actually, I might be realizing that for the first time right now. Yeah, so we're not always in sync. I think we, like you said, we get there eventually though. Yeah.
But that's the halfway through
Mm-hmm.
coming together. That's a really important thing, especially in design. And that's something that clients don't realize is multiple people's eyes on something
Mhm.
is always going to translate and come to something better.
Yeah.
I say this all the time. We take critique for a living. Like,
Yeah.
I need to know what's in your brain, and that what's in your brain, what's in my brain, we can mash that up. And most of the time, I can get what you're trying to say. Sometimes I'm like, I don't freaking understand what you're trying to.
Well, we speak a very different creative
Yeah.
language because we are coming at it from two different
Yeah.
ways. You are in software programs designing all day where there is a certain language
Right.
to that process. And I'm like, hey, I like the way that these swirls blend together. And I like, I don't know what this style is called, but here, and you're like, I have no
Yeah.
clue what you're talking about right now. And so, usually I think we've gotten better lately when that happens to go, I have to walk away from you before I get mad.
I'm going to put my AirPods back in and I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, we need to find some way to communicate on this.
So,
Okay.
myth number 3,
Yeah, this is funny.
you never argue because you love each other.
That's just a myth about marriage in general, I think.
Yeah.
If you're about to get married, you're going to argue. Okay. You may not be arguing now because you're in your love bubble, but you're going to argue at some point in your marriage.
I think if you don't disagree on some things in life, you should start disagreeing on something.
Yeah. It gives you
It's
space
healthy.
to grow.
Yeah.
It is funny.
Find a healthy way to disagree.
I
Find
feel
a
like-
process.
Yeah. I
Walk
feel like
away.
people say this and it's not always true. We don't fight very often. And in our, tomorrow will be 9 years of marriage.
When this comes out,
yeah, we'll have been married for 9 years. But
it's been the best 9 years of my life.
thanks, babe. You're going to fight, right? Thankfully for us, there have been a handful of fights that I'm like, whoa, that was a fight,
Right.
We disagree on a daily basis about something, creatively, raising kids, like what we want for dinner. I
Yeah.
don't know. Like, we're going to disagree about those things.
But that's disagreeing.
Yeah.
That's not fighting.
Yeah.
You pick
We're-
and choose. You
We're
talk
both
about things.
very passionate, and we were upset the other day about something, and our daughter came in the room and said, can you guys just make a decision to never squabble again? And I was like, thanks, Bluey, for the word squabble. But we don't do that very often, and we're very passionate. So if we are disagreeing about something,
Right.
we tend to get loud, but we're not yelling. Like, I don't know. I'm just thankful for our communication because I feel like
Yeah.
it's really healthy, and
The words come out. I have a deep voice.
yeah, yes, we have fought. No, it's not a normal occurrence for us. We still love each other despite disagreeing and or fighting. Love doesn't cancel out the tense moments of life.
Oh, for sure.
You just have to navigate through them and find your tools and learn about each other and how you communicate, and you'll get there. But yes, we do fight. We fight about work. We fight about, but not.
I don't like the word fight.
I know. I knew
There's
you were going to push back on that. We do disagree.
We definitely disagree.
Yeah.
You just communicate through it.
Like about whether or not I should use the word fight while we're recording the podcast.
Should we fight about fighting?
Okay, myth number 4. Are you ready? Working together ruins your marriage. I
Strongly.
strongly disagree.
I think it's made our marriage stronger.
Yeah.
It's made our communication skills stronger.
Yeah.
It's made our.
But I think this is the number one thing that people believe.
Yeah.
Because they just can't imagine working
If
with their spouse.
If I had to spend all day with my spouse,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to hate being with them. I'm going to despise it because that's what society tells them.
Right.
And it really is. I mean, you could choose that mindset of
Mhm.
doing that, but if you go into work with a bad attitude and you choose to fight with your coworker, you're going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of just on mindset and
Yeah.
getting married. Like,
I, on the same point, though, I don't think that working together is for everyone.
no.
This is specifically what we're doing because it's what we love and are passionate about and have built and
Mhm.
what we feel God has called us to. That doesn't mean that we think every married couple should work together. There's a chance that that's not for you and it wouldn't work. But the life that we have built is we've chosen it. And this has made our marriage so strong. And there have been really hard moments. And I'm thankful for the prayers we prayed at the beginning of our marriage
Yeah.
that protected our marriage, right? Like when things have been hard in the business, it was the business. It wasn't our marriage that was struggling.
So that's an important thing is
Mhm.
you have to see business as business.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we talk about it a lot, you have to know when you need a break
Yep.
and you have to segment it. You have to leave work at work.
Yeah. It's the
Healthy
same.
boundaries are so important.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think that if you're careless with your marriage, then anything could destroy your marriage. But
yeah.
just because we work together does not mean that that it's harder for our marriage.
Let's see. You always agree because you share the same vision.
Okay, this is an interesting one because,
I don't disagree.
well, I don't think that I disagree fully. Okay, so let's kind of
Please dig
define.
deeper.
Yeah, let's define vision, right? We have a plan for our life.
Yeah.
We have places that we want to go, goals that we want to accomplish, things that we want to see. I think that as a married couple,
Mhm.
we have a vision for our life and
Yeah.
our family. As a business, we have a vision for what we want this business to be.
Mhm.
So we have these like long-term visions. I think that we are 100% in sync on.
Yeah.
And I think that we both know what the end goal is. So
Yeah.
that's not even, that's like easy peasy to me.
So that's why I disagreed because I completely agree with everything you just
Yeah.
said.
However, I'm not sure that we always agree on the vision for design for clients. And I think that we get there
Yeah.
eventually.
But I think sometimes I know the client better or that type of I have more experience, not that I know it better, but I have more experience in that area and I will push back and say, no, this is the direction it needs to go because of X. But I think it's important to not just say, hey, that's a stupid idea. I'm going to
Yeah.
do it my way.
Well, and I've had to get better too about saying, hey, what's the long-term goal here?
Right.
Because I tend to just want to make stuff that looks cool
Yeah.
and I think is fun and trendy. And this is a huge conversation actually in our business life right now, surrounding vision, where we're having to really like tell people, hey, we're not making you cool stuff just for the sake of making cool stuff. If there's no vision behind it, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think that we've gotten better. I don't think
Right.
we're always, again, on the same page with what the vision might be, but I do think we get there in the end.
Yeah.
And I think, like I said, for our business, for our life, I think we absolutely share the same vision.
100%. I think when the client is confused,
Mm-hmm.
it brings more
Frustration.
to
Yeah.
us because if you don't have a purpose and ROI, vision, like that all kind of tears that away. So that can make it more difficult for us to come together and to be on the same brainwave.
I'm gonna do this next one, babe.
Okay.
You ready? Your workspace is super romantic.
I wish.
Um,
I bring you roses every. No, I'm just kidding.
it's just covered in rose petals and lit candles. And no, guys, our workspace is our dining room table. Our workspace might be the couch if we're working late and tired of sitting at the table. Our workspace might be laying in bed at night and needing to accomplish a couple things after the kids go
It
to
might
bed.
be one of us in the passenger seat on the hotspot in the car.
Yeah, that is.
It might be a
workspace.
cafe. It might be a Whole Foods table. Like,
Mm-hmm. Maybe someday we'll have an office. We don't currently, and
Yeah.
that's okay. When we have worked at church, we're just whatever room is available and free. That's
Right.
where we're working from. And
when we're meeting clients, sometimes it's on the side of a restaurant or
Yeah.
a cafe. It's
yeah,
there isn't a whole lot of glamour to working for yourself.
And there might be, like I said,
I
if you have a nice office space, I mean, that's great. But we work from home
yeah.
ultimately, and every thing that we do is for efficiency's sake, but it is not super romantic.
That's a very silly.
Who wants? I know that was a silly one. Who wants their workspace to be romantic?
I might.
Okay.
Well, never mind. All right, the next one. Ready?
Uh-huh.
You split everything 50-50. Please unpack that one for me, because
Okay, this is an interesting one because I think this is probably a little deeper than just the surface, and I don't want to dig too deep into like, I mean, this could go as far down as like finances and things like that,
oh
right?
yeah,
And so that's kind of where but do we split the work 50-50? Let's just
no,
go there. No, we don't. Most of the time, client work is on you. Most of the time.
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
But the
It's not like we
so
get a client and you're like, okay, you do this 50% and then you do this 50%. That's
so
not at
let's
all.
be real. Like we work from home, we work for ourselves, we work
Mhm.
as a married couple. So there are taking care of the kids things. There are
Washing the laundry
there
and the
there are
dishes.
like
Yeah.
those types of things that making dinner, all of those things. When I'm taking on more of the load, you're making dinner. Like we have a very efficient system, I think, of this needs to get done. And I
Yeah.
probably struggle with that sometimes, where I'm like, man, you're doing everything and I haven't contributed to helping out with the girls or cooking or clean any of that.
I honestly get so frustrated when you go to do the dishes because I'm like, you have to be the one doing the work.
Right.
I don't want you
Well,
doing the dishes right now.
listen, 9 years of being married, and I want it to be enjoyable for both of us. Fair, is that what you're gonna say?
Yeah.
Uh, I've gotten away from needing to be fair,
Yeah.
but if I don't feel like I'm contributing, that is hard for me.
Yeah.
Fully admit that.
So yeah, I mean, I think there are some things that we I don't know, maybe are 50, I don't know. No, it's never. If you think marriage is going to be 50-50, that's a delusion because
Go to counseling a little longer.
that's terrible.
No, like marriage counseling.
I understand.
Okay. Or premarital count. That's what I mean.
Okay.
Oh,
It's easy because you get along so well.
I agree with that.
I think that okay, on the surface, like, yeah, we do get along very well, and like, this is easy because we love it.
Mm-hmm.
But there are hard days that aren't easy. Like, just because we know this is what we're supposed to be doing, and just because I love you a whole lot, and just because it's, what we love doing, like, it doesn't necessarily make the hard days easier. They're still hard days.
There's great days and there's hard days. I
Yeah.
don't know. It is what it is. Like,
Right.
I'm going to put the same amount of effort into a hard day because I know there's going to be an easy day. I don't.
I would say that the fact that I always say, like, hear people say, like, we're friends first. I actually disagree with that. Like, we're husband and wife first.
Yeah.
You're my partner. Like, and we know that you're my partner in everything, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing that, like, we have each other to support each other
Right.
when it's hard
Yeah.
does make it easier, I guess. Like, yeah,
Maybe on the hard
there's-
days
yeah.
we talk less, and on the good days we talk more. Maybe
Yeah.
on the rainy days we work more, and on the sunny days we go
work
out and-
faster so we can go
Yeah,
outside. Like, I don't
okay,
know.
I'm gonna work tonight after the girls go to, like.
Yeah.
There's just a balance in everything that you have to find, and it's not easy, but
Yeah. The truth is that, yes, we do get along very well, and we're rarely, like, hardcore disagreeing on stuff. So, yes, it is easy work. We love it, but that doesn't make bad days disappear. And so,
no. Bad days are bad days,
Yeah.
but you can live in it or you can move on.
yeah.
Okay, so what is a myth that you thought getting into business?
Okay, so this is not relational, but I am going to say, I think I thought financially running our own thing would be easier. I know. Yeah.
I never
You never thought that?
thought that.
Okay, well, good for you.
I thought that it would become financially stable way sooner. I
Mhm.
thought, we'll throw a year at this and
Yeah.
this will be rock and roll easy.
Yeah.
Um, you know, not quite the case, but I have I have gone back and thought about like we actually did insanely amazing things.
Mhm.
The cost of living got so insanely expensive in Nashville. I think that there is some rational level to look at what we built. And
Yeah.
over the last year, I've really looked at what we've
Mhm.
built, and we weren't as crappy of a situation 3 years in, 2 years in as I thought. The cost of living was just
Astronomical.
astronomically high and
Yeah.
growing so fast. So, and that was before the economy was doing what the economy's done the
Mhm.
last few years. So, I will kudos us in saying I really thought that we would be
In a different
wealthy
space. Yeah.
after a few years, and running a business maybe isn't that way, but I'm glad for what we've gone through
Mhm.
because of our relationship now.
Yeah.
I'm glad what we've gone through because of our communication.
Mhm.
And at the times when the bank account wasn't referencing how well we were doing
Or how hard we were
or how
working.
hard we were working or how good we were doing,
Mhm.
we were building other aspects. And so it's not always financially gaining.
Yeah.
So I'm
No.
thankful for that.
I am too. I think that that's kind of all the myths, I guess. Like people just it
Is
is
that all
funny
of
the
them?
way that people
An exhaustive
believe
list.
yeah. That people believe things about what it would be like to work with your spouse and hey, maybe for another couple, like I said, it wouldn't be as easy, but this is what we know we're supposed to be doing. I think that we have balanced each other out really well and that
Mm-hmm.
we've learned how to use our differences in a way that not just serves our business, but like serves us
Yeah.
very well and our family. I think that there have been times where we had different expectations on each other to like do specific things or
Mm-hmm.
accomplish goals where now have a better understanding of like that's your wheelhouse, that's my wheelhouse. If if one of us isn't up to snuff in something, like we sit down and we learn it together. um we've gotten really well about understanding what each one is capable of,
Yeah.
and that's been really fun, honestly, to learn that because maybe we've learned it because of business, but it's
Right.
served us in our marriage.
For sure.
um
In relationship with other people.
yeah, it's funny, um thinking about like times where we haven't been fully in sync, and moments where like one of us has felt God doing something different than
Yeah.
the other person. And honestly, running a business was the first time I think we ever experienced that, where you knew 2 months before,
Yeah.
like God had told you, this is what you're going to do. You're going to start this business. And he had not told me that yet. And I didn't trust
You were
you
not on it.
enough to just go with it. And so,
Call
you know,
back to episode 1. We talked about that
yeah,
and go listen.
that was, I think, the first time that I had to really trust you
Yeah.
hearing from God. And yeah, there have been moments since where God has kind of checked my heart and said, hey, I need you to trust that your husband hears from me. And
But
that,
what was that? I was going to bring that up. What was that time frame of from starting the business when I said we were going to do that and you were like, I mean, I still remember the look in your eyes. You were like, you are so freaking crazy, dude.
yeah,
Like
yeah, I
we
remember
have
the
a
feeling
baby.
of, yeah,
Like your eyes could have burned through me.
yeah,
That will never go away, but
mm-hmm.
in the best way. That has been a okay, God, you
Mm-hmm.
told me this.
Yeah,
And it took my wife a month and a half, 2 months, whatever
yeah, I
that
think,
was, that
yeah,
time frame, to get there. But then that stayed with me for
mm-hmm.
a very long time until you came and said, I have to trust you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I have to trust you explicitly. How long was that time?
I don't remember how long it was.
It was a few years.
It
It
was,
wasn't like a
no,
fast.
I was gonna say, I think that was actually a few years ago, not like 9 years ago. Like that was just a couple years ago where I really felt God say to me, like, you have to trust that your husband hears from me. And I was like, yeah, cool, dude. I take a minute to get there sometimes with the Lord. He's very patient with me. But I I do now.
Hmm.
Maybe it's taken me too long to get there, but um I do trust that you hear from God. And so I trust the decisions that you're making. And that is full circle for us, for our finances, for our family, for raising our family, for the business. It's all of it. And that was learned trust.
Yeah.
You know, I've always trusted you as a person.
Right.
Obviously I wouldn't have married someone I didn't trust, but to make those
What a compliment.
big, those big business spiritual decisions for our
Yeah.
family, I don't know that I trusted you spiritually.
Right.
And
So that's exactly what I was trying to point out is this people compliment us all the time on how we talk on this podcast,
mhm,
how we deal with each other, how we parent, how people do compliment us all the time.
mhm,
And I don't mean that in a conceited way. I'm very humbly saying it took us
mhm,
multiple years of our marriage to build to where we are and who we are today.
yeah,
And there has been a lot of wrestling with each other, with God, with life, with business, with finances, with workload,
economy, yeah,
economy. There have been global pandemic. It's just
mhm,
been so many things.
yeah,
This didn't happen overnight. Josh and Victoria didn't become who we are overnight. We
mhm.
didn't just say we're going to start a business together and we're going to trust God
It
and
was all rainbows and
blah blah
flowers after
blah.
that.
It's so good. This has been
It's been
tears,
hard.
sweat, struggle,
Prayers.
prayers, asking other people to pray,
Mhm,
believing, trusting, not seeing to be who we are now.
mhm,
But dang it, if I wouldn't do it all again to be who we are today.
yeah,
And I think that if you can go into business and
mhm,
work with your spouse, God can really do something special
mhm,
with that if you let Him.
yeah,
But that's the caveat. If you let Him,
mhm,
and I don't think that we individually and together have always let God, maybe it would have gone a little faster, or
mhm,
maybe not. I don't know. God's timing. But
yeah,
if you let God,
mhm,
He will move.
yeah.
If you let God, He will change you.
Yeah,
But you have to be willing to be changed. And sometimes you have to be prepared before you can be changed.
mhm,
And that's hard and painful and
yeah.
all of that.
I think that there have even been times where I resented God for this being the call in our life.
Oh, yeah.
And like, God, why couldn't we just be normal people that go and have normal jobs and make normal money and all the things? Like, why this? And I don't know that he's ever answered my question of why, as much as given me peace that this is
Yeah.
always the right thing. Um, I I don't think the why will be something we know until, we're years and years down the
Hmm.
road. And, obviously, when we talk about that, like, long-term vision, the why might be that we're raising generational wealth for our family and we're building something that's sustainable for our
Hmm.
kids. And um where a lot of our business is, it coincides with ministry
Yeah.
because of the type of people that we work with. And we just, I don't know, it's stretched us, grown us, built us more than I think anything else
Hmm.
would have. Like, this
So
is full-time business together feels like doing full-time ministry together.
100%.
Yeah.
But that why, we're praying for the why constantly.
Mm-hmm.
We're always praying
Mm-hmm.
because we have to, honestly.
Yeah.
Some days we wouldn't make it
Mhm.
without a prayer.
Yeah.
That's just being real. Some
Yeah.
days it's like, I don't know how we're going to get this client to come around and be able to rationally have a conversation and do this with character and honor. Like, how do we do that? We have
Yeah.
to say a lot of prayers. We say a lot of prayers over our marriage. We say a
Yeah.
lot of prayers over all of the things, and
Mm-hmm.
that's going way cliche, but we have to be so intentional on the why in the future and the vision
Mm-hmm.
that we know what we're praying for.
Yeah.
And we're not just saying, hey, God, help my business.
Yeah.
Hey, God, help my marriage. Like, we say very
Specific prayers.
specific prayers about whatever it is, whoever we're working with, whoever else needs prayer. And we ask for specific things, and we
Well, Well, and I think that part of that comes back to what we talked about last week, right? Like, what is a creative saint? Well, for us, that means inviting God into every aspect
Right.
of our business. And, um, if we're praying such specific things, it's because we feel very in tune with God, where He wants us to take this,
Right.
what He wants to build in us. The long-term visions, the short-term visions didn't come because we thought of it.
Yeah.
Like, these are things that we have really wrestled with God on, saying,
Mhm.
like, what way do you want us to go? What path do you want us to take? What,
God, I don't
like,
want to do
yeah,
that.
I don't want to do that. Are you still going to make me,
2
like,
months later. God,
yeah,
I don't want to. Okay, I will.
yeah. And so, because we feel very sure of what God wants done through us, it makes praying for things easier because our
Mhm.
prayers make sense. We
Yeah.
feel like we're praying the right things.
Yeah.
And not to, use some like churchy language, but it's the difference between, and I can't believe I'm going to say this. It's the difference between being in the will of God, which God's will is for us to worship Him
Mhm.
with our lives, and being in the perfect will of God,
Yeah.
where He's going, hey, we're actually in step together.
Mhm.
Like, you're not just going to end up somewhere. You're
Yeah.
like going to take every single step with me.
And sometimes those steps are through the battlefield.
Yeah. And it's, I don't know, it's changed the way that we run everything, because in the beginning, I just thought, like, okay, God asked us to start a business, and so we're
Yeah.
going to do it, and He's going to bless it, and
Mhm.
at least we were obedient, and we'll make some money along the way. But instead of that, it's been like an every single day, God, what do you want from us today? And then us praying the prayers that align with
Peace
that.
and joy and
Mhm.
wisdom and direction for over 7 years, every
Yeah.
single day. And I think we prayed peace 7 years ago about things, and direction 7 years ago about things that are
Just
happening now
Mm-hmm.
that maybe we didn't want to step into, but God has walked us into direct relationship with people.
Yeah.
And those sometimes prayers take a long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
We could go on about that for a long time, but
Yep. But this is all like stuff that we've had to come to terms with as far as like how we communicate about business. And,
so
what
it's
we
deeply
each,
rooted in our marriage, in our individual relationships, in our business, in our
Mhm.
family, in our relationships with our community.
Mm-hmm.
And it can't happen without being intentional.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let's kind of do like let's dig into like how do we handle when we do disagree on stuff, because we do creatively disagree about specific clients
Yeah.
or specific designs or what we think the path should be. But I think that we've gotten pretty good at handling that. And I mean, kind of what we just talked about, like stop and pray, right? That's
Mhm.
kind of a given. It's, yes, but you can't always just stop in the middle of your day and like get on your knees and pray. Life goes on. And I
I
think
think
that
you can stop and
you
walk
can.
away. You don't always have to pray.
But I think that's also where the term pray without ceasing comes from, right?
Right.
Like, I am consistently going, okay, God, you got to help me with this right now. That
Yeah.
doesn't mean that I'm on my knees and I'm pausing my day,
Right.
but I might be in the middle of sending an email going, God, you better speak through my fingers right now,
Right.
because I don't know how I'm going to handle this. But so if we're disagreeing, I'm not always going to just walk away and go, excuse me, I need a moment with the Lord before I come back to you. So I think some of these tips have kind of
That
helped
might be
us.
odd.
I don't know how you would look at me if I did that. Defining who leads on that thing that you're frustrated with or arguing
yeah.
about, I think is really important, because it can get kind of muddy for us
Mhm.
if we're on client calls together. If you're showing me what you're working on and I have opinions, and
Mhm.
we kind of are like, oh, now I have ideas about what this should look
Right.
like, or you do, and you're like, well, I've had 3 more phone calls with the client than you have. And I'm
Right.
like, well, I saw their Instagram and I think this is,
Right.
So it can get muddy if we're not careful. And I think that we've gotten better actually about doing this at the beginning of the project.
Yeah.
Say, I'm handling this part.
Right.
This is going to be mine. That might mean, going back to the 50-50. That doesn't mean we're splitting the project in half.
Right.
It might mean you're doing 90% of the work and I'm going to need you for this 10%.
Right.
And this is the part that you're going to own.
Yeah.
And so I think that we've gotten better, but really defining who is going to handle what. If we're
That's
building a
helped us to
website,
get past
yeah,
projects more efficiently.
yeah,
If it's a website, you do it. I'll come and look at it,
hmm,
and I
I'll
think
let you know what assets I need,
yeah,
maybe, but
and we'll create
um,
them and
yeah,
do that. But
when it comes to layout,
outside
I'm
of
like, get out
like
of my bubble.
you do such a great job at layout and flow and like getting to a CTA and that
Hmm.
whole like path of bringing on. I don't ever have critique in that because you've already thought that out. So
Hmm.
for me to question that would be very silly. That's what
Yeah.
you really, really are.
But if we're not clear on what the vision is for the
Right.
client, right? What is your
If
long
they're not
term?
clear.
If they're not clear, what is your goal? Is your
Yeah.
goal, is it follows and shares? Is
Yeah.
it money? Is it engagement? What, you know?
Which
So,
we have that before
yeah,
we start most of the time.
yeah,
I'll come and say, hey, this negative space or this text align, like
yeah,
stuff like that,
yeah,
because that's where I can offer support. But I see it. That's a great way to put it. I see it as a supporting role.
yeah.
When I ask you to come in and look at a design,
Mm-hmm.
I need you to review the copy. I need you to look at,
Yeah,
does this catch you as someone who didn't design it?
yeah.
Does this feel like
I'm rarely going to mention colors or like have design critique for you as much as like, yeah, how's it catching my eye? How's it visually like?
yeah? And you
What's
have
the
great color ideas and great design idea like
yeah,
changes sometimes, but we know when.
sometimes.
No, I'm. We know when to
Yeah.
when it's like, oh, I should bring that up or not, and we've
Hmm.
gotten really good at that.
Yeah. I yeah, so defining who leads what on the project, trying to think of anything else. I mean, processing later is a great one. Like
Hmm.
I'm just may not be in the right space for you
Oh yeah,
to like hey, can you look at this? I'm like, I really can't right now because if I do, I know that my brain isn't in the right place for me to give honest
yeah,
critique.
yeah.
If I'm in the middle of folding laundry or just whatever, like
Hmm.
doing dishes, the kids have been overwhelming, whatever
If we
that
have to
is.
leave in
Like,
30 minutes.
yeah, don't ask me right
Yeah.
now. Chances are I'm having a bad hair day. And so knowing when to ask for critique and like
Yeah.
being able to say, hey, we're going to have to come back to this. And you're like, well, I have to send it. I'm like, then you're going to have to send it without me. Because
Right.
if I critique you right now, it's just not going to be
And
honest, you know?
I think there was a push from me in the beginning, or even a few years ago, where I would be like, no, I need you to look at this now because I have to send it to the client.
Mm-hmm.
And we've just gotten to the point where we do have so much going on that
There's
you
no
can't
time for
see
that. Yeah.
everything. I can't. Sometimes an email has to go out before, or a design's got to, or concepts, or
Mhm.
a quote, or whatever it is. That just got to go. And we trust each other, but we've built enough structure that
Mhm.
it does feel like there's enough comfort there that we don't have to. We both know our process and our structure,
Yeah.
and we don't really need each other,
Mhm.
but it's just a good second pair of eyes.
Yeah. I think remembering what the bigger picture is also is great because it's like the little teeny tiny details that we
Mhm.
get caught up in, because usually if we're disagreeing on something, that's what it is. It's probably something
It's
that doesn't
always
even matter.
details that someone's never gonna see.
Yeah, I'm like, I wanted those stripes to be that thick, and you're like, I'm telling you that doesn't work. How many times have you gone, hold on, let me show it to you your way and tell you why you're wrong? You have a couple times. It's fine. You're
I'm sure
usually
that I
right.
have.
But I think really remembering
I'm
like
opinionated.
I think remembering what we're doing it for, who it's for,
What the end goal
you
and
know,
purpose is.
yeah, and just not getting hung up on those little tiny details that don't matter. I might see something that I'm like, I actually wish that you would do it this and this and this way. And you're like, actually, that's 6 more hours of work that we didn't build a client for. And I'm like, okay, great. Have a great day. Don't do that. So, understanding really the scope of the
Right.
project, and it can be easy to do more
Mm-hmm.
sometimes when the client has only wanted, paid for, requested
Yep.
minimal work
Right.
or had the budget for minimal work. And so yeah, I can get in my head sometimes like, well, we need to do all the things, and you're like,
Right.
no, they didn't pay for all the things, so
When
I
that
don't know.
shifted for us though was when this is advice for people going,
Mm-hmm.
know your schedule, create
Yeah.
a process, know your scope of
Mhm.
every project, every if you're a retail shop, know your day-to-day business, if your month-to-month business. If you're influencer, know your scope. If you are a social media manager, know your scope. If
Mhm.
you're an artist, know your scope of the project you're taking on.
Yep.
That is a barrier that will keep you protected from fighting.
Yep.
That'll keep you protected from going to bed angry at each other over
Yeah.
something so stupid
Yeah.
that the client is never going to have seen
Mhm.
either way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think learn what the term scope creep means, because I did not know it until about a year ago, and it saved me a ton of time. And I've been able to say, nope, it's not
That's
my
way
baby.
outside.
Yep. Um, I don't know. I'm glad we're talking about this. We have a couple, like, I was just thinking about a couple young married couples in our life that I think eventually will work together and
Mm-hmm.
do in some capacity now, but what is a tip that you would give those young couples, or any couple, if they're considering going into business together?
Write everything down and review it together
Mm,
and create a process and set boundaries.
yeah.
Start with time
Mm-hmm.
and communication
Mm-hmm.
access,
Yeah.
email, text message, phone calls. Set boundaries. Time boundaries is probably the number one thing
Mm-hmm.
that would have saved us. The text messages at 11 o'clock at night asking for revisions, and then I lose a night of sleep, and then you
Yeah.
don't sleep because I'm tossing and turning, and we wake up so tired the next day.
Yeah.
Don't let dollars keep you from sleeping
Mm-hmm.
and fighting with your spouse. That's honestly one of the
Yeah.
stupidest things
Yeah.
that can happen, and it's one of the easiest things to
Mhm.
happen.
I think my number one tip, I mean, there's a million you can give, but this isn't really a marriage podcast, but is a little bit more practical. Um, Task management, calendar
Oh,
management,
yeah.
all of that. You have to be in sync.
Shared.
Yes, sharing all of that. If you're just trying to run on your own as a husband or a wife, and you're like, well, I'll just handle the calendar on my own, or I'll just
Mm-hmm.
handle the tasks on my own.
I'll tell you where you're going to be.
I'm just here to tell you right now, 9 years married, 7 years running a business together, it doesn't work. You need to share everything. We just use iCal for everything, and we have things color coded for specific things, and we use Trello for task management, and so there just are things that we've had to implement that as we've gotten busier, it's really helped to have
It's
a
accountability
foundation. It's accountability,
for
yeah.
you and your spouse.
Yeah. I'm going, hey, well, we actually sat down last night and had to organize our Trello board and say, where do we want this? Where is this running? We need to put some dates in.
We need to reorganize this
Yeah.
because of how things have,
Yeah.
how flow is coming in now. We just need to make sure that this is actually functional to manage.
Yeah. But having a shared calendar, you guys, is so important. We have one for family. We have one for church. We have one for clients. We have one for bills. We have it helps a ton. So I know that's a super unexciting tip, but trust me, you will thank me for it later.
It's probably the best tip.
Sync up your software.
Yeah. Use the same thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that one of the biggest takeaways from our experience is how much God cares about this. Like, he really does, because ultimately everything that we're doing is our worship to him, right? Yeah. And when we really came down to framing our life and our work in that way, we realized how much he cares about the vision of our business. He cares
Absolutely.
about what clients we take on. There have been people we've said, nope, we can't take you on because it's gonna impact our peace.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to impact our marriage.
Which is where those prayers from 7 years ago are helping us today, because we know peace is something that you don't get to touch.
Yep. So if you're considering or are currently in business with your spouse, or maybe just in close proximity to someone, I want to encourage you that God really cares about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't give you that idea or that dream for no reason.
Yeah.
And you have to invite him into the process, because the relationship, even if it is just like you were saying, a close proximity thing, the relationship will suffer
Yeah,
if he's not involved in the process.
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't sustain it on your own.
So my favorite thing about working with you
Mm-hmm.
is having watched how, when we started, how involved you were to now, the skills that you learn and the experience you have with learning a new skill or leveling up a skill that you have, just watching you develop and evolve, um, as long as we've done this, is so cool to me. And it's constantly like, dang, I don't think I could have ever done that. And I think there's been a lot of like, I do designing and I do these things, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, that's cool, whatever. But watching you do that from the other side is, I've heard you for years saying those things about design, but to see you like really stepping in the last couple of years and taking these things and learning and building things, I'm like, freaking A, that is so
Are you
cool.
saying this because it's my birthday?
I'm not, but uh
Thanks, babe.
it's cool to watch. And I think that being my favorite thing is also something I've learned, like, it makes me a better person
Mm-hmm.
because I want to keep learning.
Yeah.
And if I learn something, I want to share it with you. And so as I'm watching you do cool, amazing things, I want to get better. I want us to get better. And we do,
Yeah.
because there's constantly like a back and forth of, I'm learning a little bit more, I'm doing more. And it's just really cool.
Yeah. It's been one of the hardest things I've ever done in my entire life. I'm just
Fair.
going to be really honest. I never saw myself as a business owner. That was not on the path for me
Yeah.
at all. I never cared about working for myself.
Mhm.
I never. And there have been ebbs and flows in this where there have been times where I've been more involved in the business, like
Yeah.
right now. There have been times where I'm like, I just had a baby. I don't care about
Yeah.
any of the things that you're working on. And so
Fair.
it's, for me, it's been a little bit of an ebb and flow. Right now, we're in a season where I am heavily involved in almost everything that
Mhm.
we're working on together. And so, but this has been one of the hardest things I've ever done.
Yeah.
And it's stretched me a lot. And there have been a lot of times where I've just like, God, I don't want to do this. And he's like, cool, but this is what I've called you to. So, yeah, it came more naturally for you because you always wanted to work for yourself. I think that was always kind of like in the back of your head, something you wanted to do. And the leadership of it, and you were out there seeking mentors and trying to grow and like really putting in the work to grow and learn and all of those things. And I was like, cool, like I can't wait to see the fruit of everything you're doing. But I think now, I mean, we don't know a lot of people. We know some people that work together like we do. A few in Nashville and not many here now. Like, but
No,
there's
really
never
not many here.
there's never been anyone that we've been like, let's go to dinner and tell me all your tips and tricks for this. Like, these are things we've
Yeah.
had to really figure out on our own. And I don't want other people to have to, if we can save someone the trouble of, I mean, I say that honestly, there are just things you're going to have to walk through and figure out your pace
Mhm.
and how you're going to do things. It's not always
Everybody's
going to be
different.
easy.
You're gonna have to
Yeah.
find your own rhythm. And
But if we can help give tips to people, because we didn't really have that while you were out and you had mentors, there was nobody saying this is how you work together with your spouse.
right.
And so if we can be that for someone, that's ultimately what I want this podcast episode
For
to
sure.
be. It's what I want our relationships to be. I want, we have a lot of people around us right now that are getting married this year or have
Mhm.
gotten married in the last year. And I want people to succeed.
Yeah.
And marriage is hard enough without adding client work
Yeah.
to it. But if that's what you're called to do, if working together is what you're called to do, then there are ways that you can do it and succeed.
Right.
And I think that we are succeeding. I
Yeah.
really do.
I do.
I don't know if I ever thought we'd get here, but
It feels like we're doing something completely different.
yeah.
We're doing the same thing,
Yeah.
but it
We're
is not the
approaching
same.
it different.
It
and
is
feels
just not the
different. Yeah.
same. And there are painful lessons
Mhm.
that you have to learn. That's life.
Yep.
That's marriage. That's adulting. That's all of those things. But I think that you can learn things as a married couple as a business owner
Mm-hmm.
quickly
Yeah.
if you surrender.
Yeah.
But also there are some things that human nature is just going to make you push
You
pause,
forge
push
through the
back,
fire.
and you're going to
Yeah.
have to go through it. And the lessons that you're going to learn and the person you're going to become on the other side of that, the people you're going to become, you don't know what kind of impact that you or you as a married couple are going to have on other people. And that's something I didn't expect.
Mm-hmm.
There have been people who have come up and said things to us, and I'm like, okay, people are actually like, I feel like a jerk saying this or whatever, but people are coming up and like noticing how healthy our marriage is.
Mm-hmm.
And screw the business. Like,
Yeah.
that's winning.
Mm-hmm. I agree. All right.
Well, that was
Well, let's go
an
keep doing
intensive.
it.
That was a lot of fun.
No, that was fun.
I think it's a important thing to talk about.
Yeah.
And even if you're not a married couple, I think there's a lot of oomph that you can get out of this, as far as running a business, starting a business, growing a business
if you're
with
partners,
a partner.
Yeah.
I think there's even doing it with a friend. There's a lot of what we talked about that is just relatable across the board. So let us know what you think, what you're going through, and engage with us. We would love to see more comments.
You know who you are. Comment and share our podcast. I'm going to give a text, I promise. Okay.
Definitely going to get a text.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week.
Have an amazing week.
Bye.